Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to take a look at some of the things you may be able to see when cruising from Galveston, whether you're docked at the cruise terminal or sailing away from Galveston Island. There's so many cruise lines and ships to choose from Galveston, and whatever cruise line and ship you choose will determine what cruise terminal you're going to be sailing out of. But regardless of the cruise terminal that you're at, there's something that you'll be able to spot from all of them, and then things you'll be able to spot when sailing away. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to Raiji's Cruise Guide on YouTube. It would mean a lot to have you along for this cruise YouTube journey. And with that being said, let's begin. One thing to spot when leaving on a cruise from Galveston is a giant trumpet or coronet statue that's located in the Strand. The giant trumpet statue is located at 23rd Street in the Strand at the old Galveston Square building. This sculpture can be easily spotted from Cruise Terminal 25 or Cruise Terminal 28. The best view is from Cruise Terminal 25, though guests sailing from Cruise Terminal 28 can get a good view during sail away. Guests cruising out of Terminal 10 or Terminal 16 won't really be able to see the sculpture from the ship, but I definitely recommend taking a minute before or after your cruise to drive by and see the sculpture if you're interested. Something to spot regardless of what cruise terminal you're sailing out of in Galveston is the Ocean Star Offshore Drilling Rig Museum. This is located in Galveston's harbor, right by the Pier 21 and Harbor House Hotel, and regardless of the cruise terminal you're sailing on a cruise out of, you should be able to see this retired jack-up rig museum. Something else to try to spot when cruising from Galveston is the Battleship Texas. If you look from your ship off towards Pelican Island, regardless of what cruise terminal you're sailing out of, you should be able to catch a glimpse of the Battleship Texas. The Battleship Texas has been located at Pelican Island now for a couple of years because the ship was in dry dock at the Gulf Copper Galveston yard. And now, as of earlier this summer, the Battleship Texas was actually located along the dry dock facility in the water, and will someday soon, I think they're saying maybe 2026 will be their grand reopening. The Battleship Texas is going to have a new home located on the Galveston Island side of the harbor, and it'll be reopened as a museum and an exhibit for people to come and see it. But regardless of what cruise terminal you're sailing out of, you should be able to see the Battleship Texas. If you're sailing from Cruise Terminal 25 or 28, you'll sail right by the Battleship Texas as it sits at Pelican Island. Guests sailing out of Cruise Terminal 25 or Cruise Terminal 28 will sail by the Elissa as they're leaving their cruise. The Elissa is a tall ship that normally sits in Galveston and is part of the Texas Seaport Museum. The Elissa does have some sailings during the springtime, so if it's out on a sailing when you cruise, you may not see it, but for most of the year, it's located right by Pier 21. Guests sailing from Cruise Terminal 16 may be able to get a view of the Elissa from the ship, and then Cruise Terminal 10, you might be able to see it as your ship is leaving in the harbor, but the best views of it are going to be for guests that are sailing out of Cruise Terminal 25 and 28. If you're lucky, you might even get to see the Elissa with its sails expanded out, and it looks really neat when that's going on. During sail away from Galveston, guests on any ship that leaves from any Galveston cruise terminal have a chance to see the SS Selma, which is a shipwreck that is located as you're leaving Galveston's harbor and turning into Galveston Bay. If you look off your ship towards Pelican Island, you can see the remains of the SS Selma in the water. You might not be able to see it up close because it is a little bit off in the distance, but if you want to try to get a closer look, usually you can see it better from one of Galveston's ferry rides, which I'll have more on in a second. The SS Selma was a concrete ship from the World War I era. Something else to try to spot when leaving on a Galveston cruise is the Galveston Port Bolivar Ferry. The Galveston Port Bolivar Ferry is operated by TxDOT and offers people an opportunity to take their car from Galveston to Port Bolivar or back. And or if you're a pedestrian and want to go on a ride on the ferry, you can do that as well. There's parking available on the Galveston Island for people who want to hop on the ferry and ride it, and then they can ride it back. As you're leaving on your cruise, you'll pass right by the place on the Galveston Island side where the ferry will pick up and drop off people. And then as you're leaving, you might come across a ferry in Galveston Bay. If you're wanting to see a lighthouse as your ship leaves Galveston, you won't really see one on the Galveston Island side, but if you look off in the distance towards Bolivar, the Bolivar Peninsula, you will have a chance to see a lighthouse. If you want to get a better view of a lighthouse on the water, you're going to have better luck riding the Galveston Port Bolivar ferry. Something else to spot when leaving from Galveston on a cruise is Seawolf Park. As your ship is leaving, regardless of what cruise terminal you're sailing out of, if you look off towards the Pelican Island side of the ship, you'll be able to see Seawolf Park, which has a World War II submarine and then a destroyer escort. There's also some fishing piers located and some different park amenities at Seawolf Park. You can get a great view of this regardless of which ship you're leaving on out of Galveston. After your cruise ship has left Galveston and Island and is sailing into the Gulf of Mexico, you'll be passing through an anchorage, which will have ships that are waiting to arrive at Galveston, Texas City, the Port of Houston. So there's a lot of different ships that you may see. You could see a ro-ro, which is a roll-on, roll-off ship that may be transporting something like vehicles. You might see a cargo ship that's transporting a variety of different things. You might see a container ship that's transporting all sorts of goods. And then you may even see a tanker, which is transporting oil, gas, or some other chemicals. There's a lot of different ships you may see in the anchorage, so as you're leaving, you can usually look out on both sides of the ship and see all types of ships that are waiting for their turn to be able to enter whatever port that they are going to be docking at. Regardless of what cruise line and ship you're sailing on out of Galveston, keep your eyes peeled while your ship is docked or sailing away for dolphins. There's dolphins in Galveston's harbor, and usually they'll come up for a second. And almost every cruise I've been on out of Galveston, I've seen at least one dolphin during sail away. Keep your eyes peeled, and they're usually very quick. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you found it interesting and entertaining, and hopefully this will help prepare you for some of the things you may be able to spot from your cruise as it's departing from Galveston. If you haven't already, please take a moment to subscribe to Raiji's Cruise Guide on YouTube. It would be fun to have you along for this cruise YouTube journey, and to those who have already subscribed, I really appreciate your support. I hope you have a great next cruise, and thank you again for watching.